Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Pak. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Farmate.
Okay.
Baseballnya mana? Berapa? Iya, baseballnya. Assalamualaikum Bunda. Good morning Dr. Balarmati. Welcome to STIKes DHB Bandung. Thank you for coming.
Good morning and thank you.
It's a pleasure last year to meet you here. I think the network is not really good because yes, your voice like apparently delay here.
Emang dirinya masih kena nganggap di dia. Kan disentelin. Emang dirinya masih nganggap ke dia. Kan
Cek.
halo?
Baik, kepada seluruh hadirin, Bapak dan Ibu, rekan-rekan, mahasiswi dan mahasiswa STIKes DHB Bandung, kami mohon untuk dapat mengaktifkan kameranya dan menonaktifkan atau mengkondisikan mikrofonnya dalam mode mute. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to start. Kindly take your seats as the opening ceremony will commence shortly. This event will be conducted in English. Kepada seluruh hadirin, kami mohon untuk bersiap karena acara akan segera dimulai. Acara ini akan diselenggarakan dalam bahasa Inggris, namun dalam beberapa kondisi kami akan melakukannya secara bilingual.
Bahasa Inggris. Aku bahasa Inggris orang bisa weh.
Kaget.
Informasi kami sampaikan kepada seluruh hadirin bahwa acara akan dimulai dalam 10 menit lagi. Untuk itu kami mohon bersiap untuk bisa mengkondisikan seluruh kegiatannya dan dapat mengaktifkan kamera, juga dapat menonaktifkan mikrofon.
Iya.
Check. Good morning, all.
Morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to start. Kindly take your seats as the opening ceremony will commence shortly. This event will be conducted in English. Kepada seluruh hadirin kami mohon untuk bersiap karena acara akan segera dimulai. Acara ini akan diselenggarakan dalam bahasa Inggris. Namun dalam beberapa kondisi dan kesempatan kami akan melakukan secara bilingual. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Selamat pagi, Bapak, Ibu, para tamu undangan, seluruh mahasiswa STIKes Husada Bandung yang berbahagia. Selamat datang. Ladies and gentlemen, believe me, today is going to be a fruitful day. However, before we start, allow me to remind you to put your mobile phones and your other gadgets into silent mode. In addition to that, this venue would like to announce few important notes on safety. Okay. Here is a few important notes on safety. 1. The event uses the Zoom application and is carried out at their respective place. 2. Participants are expected to pay attention to the visibility of your PC, laptop, or mobile device. 3. Participants are expected to pay attention to the ergonomic of the sitting position during the event. 4. Pay attention to electrical hazards in the charger cable or switch around you. 5. Stay healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. For participants who watch the event together, make sure to always maintain the health protocols, maintain a safe distance, and use masks. 6. Ensure adequate intake and quota or Wi-Fi network to take part in online activities to completion. And 7. Welcome to the event. Allow me to extend our warmest greeting to our eminent speakers and guests. The Honorable Vice Chancellor of Husada Bandung Institution of Health Science, Ibu Dr. Anda Suryani Diploma Midwife MM. Distinguished our speakers today, Dr. Valar Mari and Dr. G. Tanggaval from Sri Ramachandra Institute Higher Education and Research, India. Welcome, doctors. Thank you for coming. Our remarkable group of chairpersons, lecturers, and all students of Husada Bandung Institutions of Health Science. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let's praise our God Allah, Lord of the universe. Him only do we worship and Him only do we ask for help. Peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the last messenger of Allah, so we can live happily on the earth and the hereafter. I would like to welcome to each and every one of you to the Studium General regarding the research in health sector as a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic period. From Husada Bandung Institution of Health Science, Indonesia, and Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, India. Before we come to the main session, let us start this by praying first. So the event that we will hold on this day will run well without any obstacle at all. Amin. So let us recite Asma'ul Husna together. Asma'ul Husna will be led by Bapak Nendi Riswana ST.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak dan Ibu, sebelum melaksanakan aktivitas pada pagi hari ini, kita pertama-tama mengagungkan asma-asma Allah, diawali dengan beristighfar, syahadat, dan sholawat. Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah. أستغفر الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد يا رب صل عليه وسلم يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا ملك يا قدوس يا سلام يا مؤمن يا مهيمن يا عزيز يا جبار يا متكبر يا خالق يا باري يا مصور يا غفار يا قهار يا وهاب يا رزاق يا فتاح يا علي يا يا خافض يا رافع يا معز يا مضل يا سميع يا بشير يا حكم يا عدل يا لطيف يا خبير يا حليم يا عظيم يا غفور يا شكور يا علي يا كبير يا حفيظ يا مقيت يا حسيب يا جليل يا كريم يا رقيب يا مجيب يا واسع يا حكيم يا ودود يا مجيد يا بعيس يا شهيد يا حق يا وكيل يا قوي يا متين يا ولي يا حميد يا موسي يا مبدي يا معيد يا محيي يا مميت يا حي يا قيوم يا وجيد يا مجيد يا وحيد يا أحد يا صمد يا قادر يا مقتدر يا مقدم يا مؤخر يا أول يا أخير يا ظهير يا بدين يا ولي يا متعالي يا بر يا تواب يا منتقم يا عفو يا رؤوف يا مالك الملك يا ذو الجلال والإكرام يا مقسط يا جميع يا غني يا مغني يا منيع يا ضار يا نفيع يا نور يا هادي يا بديع يا بقي يا وريث يا رشيد يا صبور يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Bapak Nindi Risana for reciting the Asma'ul Husna. Before we proceed further this morning, I would like to invite ladies and gentlemen to have a proper seat for the singing of our national anthem, Indonesia Raya.
sama guru.
The next is going to be continued by singing of marching song of Dharma Husada Bandung Institution of Health Science.
Kuku-kuku semangat yang membara menuju cita-cita yang mulia, menjadi manusia berguna bagi nusa bangsa. Sekolah tinggi ilmu kesehatan dan mawasada milik kita semua. Kita belajar dan berkarya dengan sepenuh jiwa. Tiada ragu, tiada bimbang, masa depan yang gemilang. Kita pasti meraih kemenangan yang akan menjelang. Dharma Husada dan Jaya menunaikan tugas mulia, mengabdi kepada negara kita, Indonesia Jaya. Kuku-kuku semangat yang membara menuju cita-cita yang mulia, menjadi manusia berguna bagi nusa bangsa. Sekolah tinggi ilmu kesehatan dan mawasada milik kita semua. Kita belajar dan berkarya dengan sepenuh jiwa. Tiada ragu, tiada bimbang, masa depan yang gemilang. Kita pasti meraih kemenangan yang akan menjelang. Dharma Husada dan Jaya menunaikan tugas mulia, mengabdi kepada negara kita, Indonesia Jaya. Indonesia Jaya. Indonesia
Excellencies, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Without further ado, we would like to invite the Chief Executive of the webinar to deliver the reports. Let's invite to the venue Ibu Maya Indriati, SSTMK.
Thank you, Mrs. Dian. My voice good?
It's good.
The Honorable Head of STIKes Dharma-Husada Bandung, Dr. Rangga Suryani, Diploma Midwifery MM, Distinguished Vice Chairman Dr. Suparni MKKK and Dr. Siti Sudihatmisi SSDMK, distinguished our speaker Dr. Walar Mati and Dr. G. Tenggapol from Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, India. With I respect all fellow lecturers, dear all public lecture committee who have fought for the smooth running of this event, and also, of course, all students of STIKes Dharma-Husada Bandung, who I am proud of. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let us praise and thank the presence of Allah Almighty for the abundance of grace and the joy, so all of us can still gather in this place in good health. Not forgetting the salawat and greetings we put out to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to his family, his friends, the Tabi'in, as well as to all the people until the end of the age. May we all get intercession on the end. Amin. On this occasion, allow me, Maya Indriati, as the Chief Executive, to submit a report on implementation of the Studium GENERALE about the research in health sector as a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic period. The COVID-19 pandemic period has caused disruption in everyone's lives globally, especially for health workers in increasing the implementation of COVID-19 prevention measures. As a health institution, it is necessary to realize the implementation of cooperation between STIKes Dharma-Husada and Sri Ramachandra in the development of education, research, and community service in the health field during the COVID-19 pandemic period. This public lecture is carried out in collaboration of STIKes Dharma-Husada Bandung and Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, India, with a purpose to provide the understanding about research that can be done as a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic period for students and lecturers at STIKes Dharma-Husada Bandung. Based on this time we bring extraordinary speakers and experts in their field, Dr. Walar Mati and Dr. G. Tenggapol from Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, India. Welcome and thank you for attending this public lecture. The total participants of public lecture today, more or less 1,000 people on Zoom and YouTube, consists of students and lecturers of STIKes Dharma-Husada Bandung, which come from 9 studies program, namely Diplomatry in Midwifery, Diplomatry in Nursing, Diplomatry in Optometry, Bachelor of Midwifery, Bachelor Profession, Bachelor of Nursing and Nursing Profession, as well as Bachelor of Public Health and Master of Applied Midwifery. This public lecture is expected to provide motivation and inspiration for students and lecturers, and also help us to open the horizon and enrich the reasoning of the entire academic community, especially is carrying out the research during this COVID-19 pandemic period. Thus, the public lecture report that I can convey, less and more I apologize. Happy to enjoy this public lecture. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Thank you to Ibu Maya for delivering the report. For the next program, I would like to invite the Chancellor of Dharma-Husada Bandung Institution of Health Science, who in this occasion is represented by the Vice Chancellor 1 of Dharma-Husada Bandung Institution of Health Science, to deliver opening remark, and afterward we would like to request to officially open the Studium GENERALE. Please welcome Ibu Dr. Suparni ST MKKK.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Dian. Is it my sound clear?
Crystal, Ibu.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, everyone. The Honorable of our
Excuse me, good evening. Apparently, the microphone is muted.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Bu Dian. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. The Honorable our Head of STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung, Ibu Dr. Suryani, Diploma Midwife MM, all the Head of Study Program from Magister of Midwifery Program, Bachelor of Public Health, Nursing, and Midwifery Program, also Head of Diploma Program from Optometry, Midwifery, and Nursing Program of STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung, and all of Head Division at STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung, all our lecturers, staff, and committee. Also, the Honorable Pak Raffi Makija as our best friend from India. Thank you very much, Pak Raffi, for your kind assistance. The Honorable speakers, Dr. Valarmati and Dr. G. Changavel from Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, India. And a very warm welcome for our beloved student of STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung as a participant. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and the honored guests. Selamat pagi, Bapak, Ibu, dan semua mahasiswa. I will represent the Chief of STIKes Dharma Husada to give a speech in this Stadium General. Mohon izin Ibu, mewakili Ibu Ketua untuk menyampaikan sambutan di acara kuliah umum pagi hari ini. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Today we can meet in this public lecture by online. I hope everyone is in good health. Our topic of public health today is the research in health sector as a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic period. The topic that will be delivered by the speaker is very good and very interesting. Hopefully it can be useful for all of our students. As a follow-up to our collaboration between STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung and Sri Ramachandra, we hold a knowledge sharing for STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung lecture and students from Sri Ramachandra lecturers. We hope that this collaboration will continue in many forms such as joint research, publishing articles, and joint journal publication between lecturer and student from STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung and Sri Ramachandra. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please give a great attention for this public lecture and don't hesitate to ask a question whenever you find something that's still not clear. Yeah, on behalf of STIKes Dharma Husada Bandung, I would like to declare that our public lecture with the title "The Research in Health Sector as a Solution to the COVID-19 Pandemic Period" is now open by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Finally, allow me to say thank you very much to everyone, special for the speakers, for your active participation in this public lecture. Please enjoy it. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Suparni, for the opening remark and officially open this program. Moving right along, before we go to the main session, which is going to be led by the moderator, let me now introduce our moderator of the day, who has been named as lecturer at Dharma Husada Bandung, Institution of Health Science. So please to show the CV. Okay, she had graduated her study at Magister Program at Unpad in 2015 and currently studying for her doctoral program at Nursing Lincoln University College, Malaysia. She is also as a leader at the prestigious organizations of nursing professions. It is HIPMAB and IPNI West Java region. She was involved in so many research and publications, especially in medical surgery nursing scope, and involved as speakers in so many nursing seminars since 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, can see all of the journey of her study and working record at the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Irma Nur Amalia Eskep, Nurse MCAP. Ibu Irma, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Bian. And Master of Ceremony of today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ibu Irma.
To the Honorable, the head of the Mausada Health Science Institute, Dr. Suryani, Diploma Midwifery Magister Management, the Honorable lecturers of the Mausada Health Science Institute, and all participants of this webinar today. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce myself. I'm Irma Nur Amalia as the moderator of today's webinar. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this webinar. The topic of webinar is about the research in health sector as a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic period. As we know that almost 2 years, we are facing so many changes and challenges in sectors including health and education, so must we be able to be adapted. Through this webinar, we all hope to get better knowledge about it. Dear participants, our speakers today are Dr. Valamarti and Dr. G. Tanfel. Please correct me if I wrongly pronounce your name, doctors. From Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, India. Before the presentation begins, let me inform how the presentation will be going on. First, Dr. Valamarti will present the material and follow up with Dr. G. Tanfel. After that, there will be question and answer session and followed by conclusion. Now, allow me to welcome the speaker, Dr. Valamarti, to deliver his presentation about the research in health sector as a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic period. Let me read the CV. This is the review of Dr. Valamarti. Okay, Dr. Valamarti, assistant professor and doctoral researcher at Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, received her graduate and postgraduate optometry degree from Birla Institute of Science and Technology. And this is the journey of Dr. Valamarti. And now, please welcome to Dr. Valamarti. Hello, Dr. Valamarti. Nice to meet you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the time is yours, Dr. Valamarti. You have about 30 minutes to present your material. Please, Dr. Valamarti.
Thank you, Irma, for that introduction. Can I share my screen now? Is it visible? Is my screen visible and am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's visible.
Thank you, STIKes Dharma Hosada and Sri Ramachandra, to having given me this opportunity to present before this August audience. Because we have a diverse group of audience today, we thought we will take the health sector research on a holistic basis. And that's the reason that we chose the same research in the health sector as a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic. The objective of this session would be Like I would be trying to discover what are all the pre-COVID health sector challenges that we did not realize till the COVID hit, and what we shifted during the COVID, and how we are going to get prepared for the next generation. If we have another pandemic in place, are we ready to face it? And with all this in mind, we have identified certain potential areas of research which has to be continued so that we can have a emergency proof health sector in the future. With that objective in mind, we will move on to the session. We all know that the COVID-19 health crisis has really shut down the global economy into the slippery slope. So with COVID-19 and economic slowdown, the health sector took the center stage. So what are all the
Excuse me,
unattended?
Dr. Valamati?
Yeah.
Excuse me, your PowerPoint may be in a slideshow?
Yeah, it is in slideshow.
Oh, okay. In our monitor, it's not move on.
Somebody can help me out. It is in slideshow in my thing. Do I have to?
Excuse me, doctor. Maybe
Yeah.
you can stop the share screen.
Okay.
And then repeat to share again.
Ma'am,
But
what
you
you could do
can
is,
choose the screen.
Yeah.
Screen mode, not the PowerPoint one.
ma'am, could you just reshare, ma'am? I think you could stop sharing and reshare. Probably it should
Yes.
start working, ma'am. Thank you.
Is it in slideshow mode now?
It isn't yet, doctor.
Not yet, doctor. It's the same.
Ma'am, you can just try the slideshow at the bottom of the screen. You know, there's a slideshow. You can just try clicking that once again, ma'am.
Yeah.
Apparently, doctor has clicked the slideshow, but it doesn't appear in the screen, on the screen, right?
In my thing, it's in the slideshow mode.
Yes, I think there is an error technically. Or maybe can you send us the file maybe, doctor, so we can show it from here.
Okay, you have some 2 minutes. You give me just 2 minutes. I'll stop share and I'll send it right across.
It's okay, Irma.
di mana? Buka. Ini.
So to which ID do I send?
Is it
Ma'am, you
okay
can
to? Okay,
Ma'am,
please,
you can
Mr.
send it to
Rafi.
me, ma'am.
Okay. Have you received the presentation?
Ma'am, I'm just checking one second. No, ma'am, I haven't received it yet.
This is the TIEU, that mail ID only, no?
That's right, ma'am. That's right.
That only I have sent. Can you refresh it and see?
Sure, ma'am. One second. Yes, ma'am, I've got it. I'll just share it one second.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Ibu Nining, ma'am, it is there in the WhatsApp group. Ibu Nining, you can please download it from it. Thank you.
Yes, Pak Raffi. Wait a second.
Yeah, sure, Bu. Makasih.
Apa aja sih yang harus
Ibu Dian, can we share for the material from the committee?
Sure, Ibu, it's on process.
Okay.
Okay, Doctor, you can continue your presentation.
Okay, thank you. And for the audience, we are very sorry for the technical setback. And I request the organizers to help me with the movement of the slides. As I cannot control from here, I think. So next slide, please. Having known the objectives, we are trying to find the gaps in the health sector and make our way forward towards the research basis. Next slide, please. So with the COVID-19 and the economic slowdown, we know that the healthcare industry took a center stage. Next slide, please. So things that we never realized pre-COVID was that there would be some day where there will be influx of patients. There will be unattended hospitals flooded with patients, hospitals flooded with patients. And we never realized that there will be one day that we will go with shortage of resources. Most of the time we thought that we had enough resources. But with the COVID, only we realized that there will be shortage of research resources. And for though we know that there was telemedicine, telehealth even decades before, most of us did not get into it. These webinars had started only a couple of years ago. Before this, we did not realize that these webinars would be very helpful. So there was always a long overdue on digital transformation in healthcare. So the healthcare environment was not ready to face a worldwide pandemic. Next slide, please. So what were the roadblocks that we had when the COVID-19 really hit in terms of the healthcare ecosystem? The first and the foremost was with the healthcare providers. The roadblock was for the healthcare providers. There was actually a scarcity of personal protective equipments. So we cannot justify the security of our healthcare providers and frontline workers. They were really challenged. And there was reduced face-to-face appointments. So our customers or our clients did not know what to do in case of emergencies. And over and above, most of them lost their jobs. So there was a lot of financial limitations in the entire ecosystem. If there had been a electronic health record maintenance in place where we could transfer data from one area to another, then it would have been a better system. Next slide, please. The another roadblock that we felt during the COVID-19 was the global supply chain barrier. Because the whole world was like in under lockdown, there was very shortage of medical and diagnostic equipments. Where we usually procure it from one place or another. Everything is not available under one roof. So there was a delay in movement of medical and diagnostic equipments. Because of the fragile system that is over dependent on manual processes, we were not able to handle a huge number of patients all at one time. Next slide, please. Another roadblock we felt during this COVID-19 was there was no centralized data management system. We had no clue about any of the patients admitted into the hospital. We did not have any previous records. We really had less communication with their attenders because there was a lot of isolation between the family members and the people who were affected by COVID. So there was a lack of data or health record about the patient that was admitted to this. So this in turn delayed our healthcare in a greater way. So digital innovations were not practiced in healthcare for long, which was really felt as a major roadblock during the COVID-19 period as far as the healthcare ecosystem was considered. Next slide, please. So did we shift our protocols during this COVID-19? Yes, we had a very big shift in healthcare. The pandemic really served as a catalyst in driving the much needed change in the healthcare ecosystem. So whatever we thought we did not step in, we were forced to step in because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The first and the foremost shift was in telehealth. Though telemedicine, telehealth was in place, it was a very big infrastructure. We had every modality of obtaining telehealth. We somehow rejected it or we did not go into it in full-fledged. But then with the COVID-19, we really felt the need for telehealth, and that realization, in fact, was a boon to healthcare industry during the COVID-19. Most of us were working with virtual appointments, remote monitoring, and in some advanced areas, there was nurse bots who can play a key role in safeguarding the frontline workers. When it was specific to optometry services, we really had an audio and video teleconsultation. In fact, our vision therapy patients were monitored on a remote basis through video conferencing and conducting our vision therapy sessions online with a person in place on the other side. Next slide, please. So this television therapy session, though we did not have physical vision therapy, we somehow managed to keep our therapy patients on place with the help of television therapy. Next slide, please. The major shift again was in electronic medical records. Most of us were sitting at homes. Sometimes if we need to refer back to our patients' records, it was not really available to us. Though we could do a little bit of television therapy, we need to really refer to the records often to see how they are improving or how they are progressing. Though this was a big barrier to this, somehow we tried to start making soft copies of the records during the COVID-19 so that we can have a quick reference of our patient data and we can move further on. So such databases can help us to track the availability of equipments, streamline communication across the health system. It can reduce a lot of administrative tasks, and in fact, it can create awareness in healthcare if there had been a medical records in place, but we started it off quickly. Next slide, please. Another shift came in terms of insurance policies because most of them lost their jobs, did not have money. If they had had an insurance policy in place, they could have handled the pandemic much better. So there was a need to enroll more people into the insurance policies, and these insurance policies also realized that they need to act faster in enforcing the claim process, and if there were many requests and queries, how to handle them in a more streamlined fashion. So the insurance people also evolved during this COVID-19 period to support healthcare in a bigger way. Next slide, please. The big shift really came in terms of government policies. Previously, the government and the private healthcare sectors were not working very much in tandem. But then, with the COVID-19, people came together and started to work in tandem. There was collaboration with a lot of manufacturing companies to procure vaccines, medicines, and equipments. So we need to ensure a seamless supply of medical products and equipments even after the COVID. So we have set the ball rolling for data standardization during the COVID-19. We all have realized that patient registers are necessary, and we should quickly move into electronic medical records so that we can share data and see how this will be helpful. Probably this process I will be explaining down the presentation as well. Next slide, please. So what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is like we need to have an emergency proof healthcare system, because this pandemic has taught that we were not emergency proof. So if we have to have the emergency proof healthcare system, can it be brought down by an individual? The answer would be absolutely no. So what is the need? The need now is that we need to have all the stakeholders to collaborate and work together. So the government, healthcare provider, we need a lot of technology support, technology services, and of course our patients all have to come together so that we can gain an emergency proof healthcare system. Next slide, please. So what are all the next gen solutions in healthcare that we are going to think of if we have to have an emergency proof system? So first and foremost that we can think of is incorporating artificial intelligence and machine learning. Predict which COVID-19 patients are at risk of developing complications. This will help us. It will help us to gain a quick access to the scans and reports of our patients. It can provide a lot of insights into the logistics, where the beds are available, where the ventilator is available, where the oxygen supply is available. Okay, so it can help us to do a lot of logistics so that we may not delay the healthcare process. And machine learning can identify if there are any procedural inaccuracies and deliver faster reimbursement across the healthcare supply chain. Next slide, please. So this is how AI and machine learning can support the whole entire population. We can collect the social and demographic data and put it into the machine learning model. So once if the patient comes to have a COVID testing, all his clinical data are already in the machine learning models. So we can immediately source the data and find out where or what type of hospital need, or is it like home quarantine would be required. So we can give him whatever intervention that is required, we can immediately give him. And again, this data is not ending there. This can be supplied to pharmaceutical industries. It can be supplied for government policies. So we can have a nation level policy making that will help the healthcare sector in a greater way. Next slide, please. Other way of thinking in the healthcare research is using robotics. Because the first roadblock that we found in here was our healthcare workers' safety was challenged. So in order to avoid that or address that, we can have telepresence robots to screen patients in their own area and thus reducing the risk of healthcare workers. So AI-powered robots can be used to even perform surgical procedures. They can perform scans, they can take up ECG, and they can have a real-time share with the specialist where the patient and the specialist will feel satisfied because they have really examined in a remote fashion, and they are trying to give a more appropriate treatment for their clients or customers. Next slide, please. The next solution in healthcare would be data management. So DAP or data as a platform can be widely used to monitor population health demographics, healthcare expenditures, and disease trends. So if we have a centralized data management of the entire population, we can really plan our budgeting, we can predict the disease trends, and we can help to make future plans to have an emergency-proof healthcare system. Creating personalized treatment plans becomes easier if we could have a data of the health demographics of our population. Next, please. Next solution that we thought of in healthcare during this COVID-19 was consumer engagement platforms. So again, if there are any small procedures that has to be done, so AI-based online screening and triage tools can be used to perform these. In most of the places, these were even available and free of cost. So this will actually improve the access to care, reduce the cost, and the quality of care that we are providing will be greatly improvised. Next. So with all this in mind, to take a case example, we thought we will think of India as to how it responded during the COVID-19 period. Did we really incorporate technology into place? Were we able to address the needs of our population? With that, we will see how India responded to this COVID-19. Next slide, please. So in India, the private and government healthcare workers worked really in tandem, because everywhere the testing was done, wherever you reported, the testing was done immediately. Then there were isolated beds in every health sector that you approach, so that immediate treatment and care can be processed. And there was sharing of medical staff and equipments between the government and the private health sectors. And if we require any home health care, everyone was ready to help, and really everyone worked in coordination. So we were able to address this pandemic in a better fashion. Next slide, please. Did we have a tech-enabled system in place to address this pandemic? Yes. We had a Arogya Setu mobile app, which really told us if there was any contact near us, were there any COVID affected patient near us, so that we can be really safe. So this syndromic mapping, contact tracing, and self-assessment was really available throughout the nation during this COVID-19 period. So such technology supported us in the delivery of essential items, because people knew from the app where the containment is greater. If the containment zones were greater in one particular area, the delivery of essential items were given in priority to that area. Teleconsultation was organized for those patients. If they have to be transported, nearest bed which is available was told to them. So there was a real-time monitoring by our health sector people as well as by our government authorities. So we were able to address the pandemic in a better way. Next slide, please. Added to that, we also had a universal health cover program, which is called Health for All, Ayushman Bharat and National Digital Health Mission, which really took up exponentially during this pandemic. We also had eSanjeevani app where you can get web-based telemedicine solutions. So all cough, cold and fever need not be COVID-19 always, isn't it? So everyone need not panic and come to the hospitals or rush to the hospitals thinking that it would be COVID. So this eSanjeevani app had tried to help us give a web-based telemedicine solution so that the gap between the rural and urban India was bridged. Next. So with all that in mind, we tried to find out top 5 areas of research in healthcare, which we think that can be taken up in the future, so that we are trying to build an emergency-proof healthcare system. So the first on the list would be a risk management research. So research in terms of occupational safety and efficiency can be put up in place. So as we had told before, you can think of how to improve the occupational safety, whether you're going to use robots, you are going to use artificial intelligence, or in any other way that you're going to ensure safety and efficiency at the workplace. The second would be like developing designs and policies that would reduce the risk and promote secure workplaces. The next research in risk management would be controlling preventable deaths. Can we have some management system, data analytical system, where we can predict which patients are at high risk and which patients are at low risk? We can prioritize them and prevent some deaths. So these are the potential areas of research in terms of risk management. Next slide, please. The second scope in healthcare research is, next slide, please. Information management, an important part of healthcare. So we should start doing a meticulous maintenance of patients' medical histories, all his diagnostic reports, any pre and post surgical treatments and monitoring records, so that if he is in another part of the country, his data can be immediately transferred. So any emergency treatments that would be required in his place can be done immediately. So we should start doing a meticulous maintenance of patients' medical records. So a research in cutting edge information technology with the fundamentals of patient care can really address this concept. Next slide, please. Next thing that we found during this COVID-19 is an economic slowdown. So we need to think about the financial management also. So if in case of emergency, how we are going to source the funds, how we are going to address? Are we going to have a routine investment into the emergency funds, or we are going to have any other financial management protocols in place, so that in terms of emergencies, we need not feel the financial crunches as well? So we need to think about budgeting, how we are going to budget, how we are going to price, how we are going to spend, All this should be streamlined so that we are not going to face with any financial crunches in terms of a pandemic. We need to research and discover new methods to reduce costs. So how we are going to do that? And integrating these health services and modes of payment, online modes of payment, can be a very big boon into healthcare if we are going to do research in these areas. Next slide, please. Next thing that we think of is the healthcare policy. If we have a AI and machine learning in place, if we can have a demographics of our population, if we can have a health report of our population, then planning these policies becomes easier. So physician continuing education can be done, because most of the times what we felt is like in COVID, we did not know initial stages, the clarity was not there as to how to treat these patients. So over a period of time only we evolved all those policies. So if we had had a physician continuing education, so we could predict if we are going to have another pandemic or another health crisis, and we can be prepared to face that situation. And we need to have some policies in terms of pharmaceutical research as well, and policies in drug testing. So more funds can be allocated towards pharmaceutical research and drug testing. And another policy is you can centralize the insurance liability. Like people, every people over this particular age should have an insurance policy in place. And if it is an insurance policy, it has to be addressed within say 12 hours or 6 hours if the patient gets admitted. So all these policies have to be made in place. With that areas in research, we think we have a very big scope in terms of healthcare industry. Next slide, please. Next area of research that we can think of is epidemiological studies, which part of an epidemiology study, Dr. Tangavel sir will be presenting in the next session. This is again a very important area of research in as far as healthcare industry is concerned. So if you could analyze on the spatial distribution, if you could analyze on the timeline and variables relative to various disease, this all requires disease trends. So this all requires data again. So all this becomes interconnected. So we need to study on the history and prior locations of pathological outbreaks in order to be prepared with sufficient quantities of vaccines and personals. We need to discover the pathways and patterns of illnesses and injuries so that we can predict if there would be any other injury or illness or any other virus that would come in the future. So this epidemiological studies become very, very important in case of healthcare research. Next slide, please. Another major hit during the COVID-19 was education in healthcare system. So all our universities faced a major challenge as to how we are going to impart knowledge to the future healthcare professionals. So we immediately adopted to deliver healthcare education in an alternate mode. So we started off blended learning, we started off online teaching, we started to use virtual classrooms, virtual clinical areas, we started to record and show videos to our students. Though it was not interrupted, we somehow tried to educate our healthcare professionals. So this was not a very easy job for the faculties. It was a real challenge for them to impart education during the COVID period. So if we could have some innovations in the delivery of medical education, it would have been easier for us during the COVID-19. If we had some virtual clinical labs that are functional, so that you can change. Suppose if it is in optometry, suppose if I change one power, what will happen to the refraction? So all this we can experiment or using virtual labs, so the students can be sensitized even before they see a real-time patient. So innovations in terms of clinical assessment, medical education, and innovations in terms of setting up virtual clinical labs would be a boon in terms of education in healthcare. Next slide, please. So having known all these things, we have tried to analyze what is the gap that we have had in healthcare, how we can bridge those gaps, and how we can move further with the research. Here is the way forward. So we need to look at an era of digital and technological innovation and advancements that will help communities to fulfill those requirements at a much faster pace. We need to think of collaborative research with various stakeholders in terms of government, private institutions, pharmaceutical companies, all have to come together and try to do a collaborative research. And moreover, we also require an interdisciplinary research at this point of time. Next slide. So I thank STIKes HSB and Sri Ramachandra for the opportunity, and I thank all the august audience for your patience listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Valamarti, for giving us such informative and interesting presentation, especially for optometry and for all participants, and for all participants as healthcare and health student. And now we are entering second material from Dr. G. Tenfeld. The topic is about the air pollution epidemiology. Please welcome Dr. G. Tenfeld. And maybe after we listen the presentation from Dr. G. Tenfeld, this is the ZV from Dr. G. Tenfeld.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Dr. Irma. Yeah.
Yeah, good morning, Dr. Tenfeld. How are you today?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
What time is it in India, doctor?
It's about 9 a.m.
Okay, have you have breakfast?
Yeah, I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, committee, please, from CV, from Dr. G. Tenfeld. Dear participant, this is the CV of Dr. G. Tenfeld. He is senior lecturer at Department of Environment, Health Engineering, Faculty of Public Health. He is also as WHO Collaborating Center for Training, Occupational and Environmental Health. And this is his education journey, the employment, and so many journey for Dr. G. Tenfeld. Okay, it's my pleasure to meet you, Dr. Tenfeld. Your time is about 30 minutes. Your time is yours.
Thank you. Hope I'm audible. Yeah, so let me share my presentation. Hope the presentation is
sorry.
visible. Sorry.
The material from Dr. G. Tenfeld. This is Mr. Ronnie, please.
I have already shared the presentation. It's there already. Yeah. So yeah, good morning and Assalamu alaikum. I decided to choose, I choose to do on air pollution epidemiology rather than on COVID. Though I'm an epidemiologist, I felt air pollution is more suitable for the August audience. The reasons are basically COVID is a pandemic, so it will come and go. But air pollution is not like that. It's a perennial problem, right? So it's not going to go away. It's not going to we are not going to have waves and kind of things like COVID. But this is a perennial problem that we have to live, especially India and Indonesia. Both have the same kind of developing countries. So we are on a daily basis, we face this problem of air pollution, and not that many research has undergone in both Indonesia and India as far as air pollution is concerned. So that is one of my reasons. The second reason is that since ours is the WHO center for collaborating center on environmental health, and this webinar, the basic idea of having this kind of webinar is to have kind of collaboration between the two institutions. So I thought this talk would be of useful to the students of public health as well as nursing and midwifery, as well as all faculties of the STIKes DHB University. This is what the rationale with which I am presenting today. I have a plethora of slides, so I would like to go over. If you feel that I'm exceeding the time, please tell me that so that I can speed up my presentations accordingly. Thank you. Yeah. So there are 4 or 5 major parts of the presentation. One is that introduction to air pollution, then how the air pollution health effects are actually understood with respect to the current biological understanding. The second one is how the history of air pollution studies, especially the epidemiological studies, over the last 50 or 70 odd years. Then we work on the household air pollution, which is also common in Indonesia. So our expertise in household air pollution epidemiological studies. These are the 4 or 5 points that I would like to dwell on this PowerPoint. Yeah, so you all know air pollution is, there are 2 sources of air pollution. One is an anthropogenic sources, the other one is natural sources. But when we say air pollution, by default, we actually mean the anthropogenic. That is that air pollution due to, sorry. Any issue? Hope I am audible, right? Somebody was trying to say something, so can I proceed, or is there any problem in my audio?
No, Dr. Is clearly.
Okay, right. Thank you. So the natural sources and anthropogenic sources. So I'm going to fully dwell on the anthropogenic sources. And air pollution is also actually classified as outdoor, otherwise called ambient, and indoor air pollution. So when we say indoor, which actually means that the air pollution sources which are inside the home or office building. But within the indoor air pollution, there is a separate set of household air pollution, which is only due to the cooking activities, cooking, lighting, and heating activities within the household. So mostly the women are engaged in that. So they, in fact, exposed to high levels of air pollution, which affects their health. So that's what we are doing research on that. So my last part of the presentation would be on the household air pollution epidemiological research that in Srihar that we are doing. Yeah. So when I say air pollution, there are 2 distinct components of air pollution. One is the solid, otherwise called particulate matter, that we usually call it as PM10, particulate matter size 10, particulate matter size 2.5, and many things. And also we have gaseous air pollution, which is primarily due to carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and volatile organic compounds, and also polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Some of the gaseous pollutants are basically carcinogenic, But I'm not going to dwell on these details about how they cause carcinogen and carcinoma and other things, but rather I would be actually talking about the kind of epidemiological studies which have been undergone so far. Right. So particulate matter, by far the largest, most of the studies, or almost all of the studies on air pollution, has actually used particulate matter as their metric to study air pollution and health effects. So there are various size fractions like PM10. You probably know because in medias and TVs and everywhere, PM10 and PM2.5. When we say PM10, it doesn't mean it's a nomenclature to say the size of the pollutant in the air. So PM10 and PM2.5 are actually basically 2.5 micron or 10 micron in diameter per cubic meter of the air in a particular area. But both PM10 and PM2.5 have various different sources. Usually PM10 comes from grinding sources, mechanistic sources. For example, when you construct a building or when you make infrastructure like roads and other things, that time the dust particle contains lots of PM10. But PM2.5 is primarily from a combustion source. Means that when you burn something, a diesel or petrol or even wood or dung, whatever we do, so that combustion process, if that combustion process is not fully done, then PM2.5 particles can emanate from that. So that is the most notorious with respect to the health, right? So just this is just to make you understand that how small is the particulate matter, right? So just imagine a human hair. So human hair is usually 50 to 70 micron in diameter. But if you look at PM10, which is here, so this is PM10 and the small dot, the red dots are actually PM2.5. So it is about 50 to 75 times lesser than, the diameter is lesser than what the human hair. So that means we cannot actually see the particulate matter through our naked eyes, right? So that's small it is. So it means that it can actually escape the respiratory system, the defense system of the respiratory organs. So it can actually enter into the alveoli. The PM2.5 has the capacity to enter into the alveoli and takes part in the gas exchange, so that it can penetrate into the lungs and the bloodstream. Thereby, it can actually induce inflammatory process inside the body. So we all know that once an inflammatory process is set in the body, it can actually produce lots of health effects. The COVID also, one of the mechanism is that the SARS-CoV can produce inflammatory action. So that's how we get some symptoms, right? Similar way this time. So lots of biologically plausible mechanisms have been thought about how the air pollution can induce health effects in the body. Basically, oxidative stress and inflammation, that is the primordial way by which pollution can actually induce health effects, especially in the lung and cardiovascular system. And the second most common pathway is the endothelial dysfunction. The third one is actually the DNA changes. Methylation changes might happen through the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, which is present in the air. Then the fourth one is the hemodynamic changes. So thereby the heart rhythm can be modified or the blood pressure can be modified. So these are all the ways by which air pollution can induce health effects inside the body, right? So when we say air pollution, we only look at the death or hospital admission. This is what happened with COVID also. So many people got COVID infected, but they were asymptomatic, right? So we never know how many people got infected, how many people got hospitalized. We only know how many deaths happened and how many had serious infection, right? So the mild asymptomatic or mild symptomatic infections were never, we could not do it. We could not actually enumerate it. That's what happened. Dr. Valarmadi also mentioned about it, that we have to have a bigger surveillance system, a database by which we should be able to know. But that is a lacuna here. Similarly, in air pollution epidemiology also, we only know people when people die due to asthma exacerbation or COPD exacerbation, we will come to know about air pollution health effects. But there are many OP visits, right? Private physicians usually treat asthma exacerbation by anti-asthmatic drugs. people do take self-medication, which doesn't come into the system. Similarly, that lung function changes. If you do a pulmonary function test as spirometry, you might be able to pick it up, the pulmonary function changes, which are not actually routinely collected by the hospital system. So we don't even know that how many people are affected with by air pollution. So that is the lacunae, otherwise that the pyramid of effects due to air pollution. Right. So how air pollution has been studied? Historically, there are three distinct events in the last 70 or 80 odd years that which actually mark that air pollution should be studied. Right. The first major event that happened in Meuse Valley in Belgium. Belgium, of course, you all know it's famous for the glass factories, right? So the Meuse River Valley is a place where lots of glass manufacturing factories were there. So that is one thing. Then second is there is a valley called the Donora River, which is in Pennsylvania. So there is a major event happened that about 30 odd people had died. All the three events happened in winter. The third one, which everyone know, is the Great London Smoke, which happened in December 1952. That is the most telling effect of air pollution on human health. So most of our studies, air pollution epidemiology studies, actually originated after the London Smoke event. Even though there were few more events which happened before that, but London Smoke was the most striking event, which killed thousands of people on a given day, just like COVID. So that's why it is given importance across the world. So in the Meuse Valley River, I just go through it because I already explained it. So lots of publications have come. These are the glass factories, and it's a valley. So air pollution engulfed during winter, because during winter what happens is there is a kind of a temperature inversion which happens. But most of us, like people who live in Indonesia or India, southern India, may not experience the temperature inversion because we are on a tropical country. But there are some river valleys which can have temperature inversion. That means which can trap polluted air. That's why many people died in Meuse Valley. Similar thing happened in Donora River Valley in Pennsylvania. So suddenly 26 people died without any problem. They were apparently normal people before that. They all died, and suddenly they died due to suffocation. That was in 1948. Then came the London Smoke of 1952, right? So what happened was in London became a large metropolis by late 18th century and 19th century. And people were actually using coal, domestic coal, right, to heat their homes, to warm their homes. So lots of smoke was emitted. And also it was a winter period. So temperature inversion happened. Usually in winter we get fog. But when a smoke is engulfed in a fog, it is called smoke. So that smoke made the entire London city was invisible. It's like people could not see next person who is standing 10 feet away. So that much air pollution was predominantly there in London in 1952 December. So that means that many people got suffocated, many died. So it has been estimated about, these are all the pictures of the Great London Smoke. So you can see how the London, it's not the fog, it's actually the smoke. So about 4,000 people died, right, on a week. And these are extra deaths, it's not the usual 4,000. 4,000 additional deaths happened during that week of December. And many thousand people got hospitalized for asthma and COPD, as well as some respiratory issues. And travel could not be made, flights could not be take off, and many other things happened. So what happened was, even though we had two more events globally, but the London smoke was the most telling event. So the government of UK, the British government, had to promulgate some laws called Clean Air Acts. So what they did was, actually by doing this Clean Air Acts, that the factories should be shifted out of London. That was the first thing. Then centralized heating should be accommodated. Instead of using coal, that people should use clean fuel for warming their house, or centralized heating process, so by which the smoke can be reduced. So these are all the acts by which the government wanted to curtail the air pollution. They somehow succeeded in that. but it took almost 30 odd years for the city of London to completely get away from the air pollution. London nowadays don't get any such kind of events because of the shifting of the factories and because people don't use coal anymore for warming their house and other things. But the major change with respect to air pollution epidemiological studies came after the Harvard 6 City studies, which was a study done by the Harvard University researchers in 6 US cities, right? So this was a first cohort study with respect to air pollution epidemiology. Cohort study, of course, you know, the students of public health know what is cohort study. So in cohort study, what happened was that prospectively people are enumerated, people are assessed for their health condition. So what they did was actually in 1970, the study was started. So they had actually selected, randomly selected participants, 1,000 odd participants in each of the cities of US. So about 8,000 participants were recruited. At the baseline, everybody's health was assessed. The spirometry, the blood pressure, the cardiovascular risk factor, the smoking, alcoholism, everything was enumerated. And they were followed up every year. And they also collected air pollution from pollution monitors that every country has now, every city has now. So the monitor record daily air pollution counts, how much suspended particulate matter is there in the air, how much sulfur dioxide, how much ozone. So that data they could collect from the city corporations. And then every year these subjects were undergone medical checkups, lung function, cardiovascular risk factors, and a plethora of these things. So they published their result in 1994 in New England Journal of Medicine. So as you can see, this actually indicates that these are the 6 cities: the Steubenville, St. Louis, Harriman, Watertown, Topeka, and Portage. So this Portage town city is the least polluted city, which is here, and the highest polluted cities are Steubenville and St. Louis. So as you can see, the probability of survival, that is who has the highest life expectancy. If you look at the graph, you can actually very well see people who live in Steubenville and St. Louis have a lower probability of living longer life, right? Compared to the Topeka and Portage, which are unpolluted cities, that is relatively unpolluted. We would not say there is no city is unpolluted because every city is polluted because of the human activity. But these 2 cities are relatively unpolluted compared to the Steubenville. As you can see, the survival is also lower and the number of deaths also higher. For example, Portage, that's the city which has got the lowest air pollution. The deaths per 1,000 person year is only 10.73, whereas in Steubenville it is 16.73. That means it is almost 0.5 times higher compared to the lowest polluted city. Similarly, they did a regression modeling, and then they found out consistently whether you adjust for these other factors like smoking, education, BMI, occupational exposure, all those things, you can actually see a consistent increase of death mortality in cities which has got high levels of air pollution. Like for example, without any this thing for fine particles, that is PM 2.5, it is 1.31. That means 31% higher death rate in the city of Steubenville compared to the Portage, which is the lowest polluted city. So that is what the conclusion they made. So what was the implication of this Harvard study was that this was the first study who did a epidemiological study on air pollution in a cohort, longitudinal cohort manner. The study was done for 20 years so that the results of the study was robust enough. So it actually made other researchers across the world to mimic this kind of a setup study design in their countries, and every other country who modeled same study design across their countries found out similar result. Depends upon how much air pollution they have, right? And the US Environmental Protection Agency claimed that if you could control particulate matter 2.5, then that means you can avoid 15,000 premature deaths. That is for US population. For like countries like Indonesia and India, where the population density is high, our benefit would be much more better, much more higher, because US by default has a lower air pollution compared to Indonesia or India. So in US itself, that much deaths can be avoided, means both in India and Indonesia, we can avoid more deaths. That's what the conclusion, the interpretation we can take. And so it actually enthused many researchers across the world. So they all mimic the same Harvard 60 study design in their countries, and they also got similar results. Right. So let me come to household air pollution. Let me know if I'm going very fast or it's okay. The speed is okay, because it's only half an hour, but I have about 60-odd slides. So I thought like I should not dwell more than a minute for a slide. So if you feel that I'm over speeding, please let me know so that I can tone down my speed. Hope, yeah, I'm going in a normal speed, which you can understand. Yeah, let me continue. Okay, so we all know the household air pollution. I mean, that is the outdoor air pollution, otherwise called ambient air pollution, which made havoc in London in 1950. But this is due to the industrial air pollution, all very vehicular pollutants, right? But there is other side, sorts of air pollution, which is inside our homes, which is when we actually use the biomass, that is wood or dung. Of course, most developed countries don't use wood or dung for cooking or heating. In India also, urban India doesn't use wood or dung. Only LPG or electric, these things are used, fuel is used. But in the rural areas, if you go to the underdeveloped or impoverished areas, context, settings, both in Indonesia and India, that you will see women are actually using biomass fuel, right? So that means lots of smoke is emitted. I just put one slide over here, which can actually show you. You probably know that Delhi is the most polluted city in the world. It used to be Beijing about 10 years back, but the last 10 years, Delhi has overtaken. Means that Delhi is the highly polluted city in the world. This is a scenario in Delhi, which was taken in November 2017. Similar condition prevail in the households when they use biomass for cooking, right? So this is not, Delhi usually gets the highest levels of air pollution only during the winter. But if you look at these households, which are polluted all the day, throughout the day, that I would not say throughout the day, at least when they cook with the biomass fuel. So that means almost 3 to 4 hours on a daily basis, 365 days, all these households are actually polluted, right? So that means the women who cook with biomass, and you can also see children are there with the women, right? So both the children and the women are exposed to high levels of air pollution, which is on par with what Delhi undergo during winter. So this is actually 365 days in a year for so many years. That levels of air pollution is actually these women are inhaling. That means their lungs are impaired and their cardiovascular system is impaired, which nobody has actually done studies before 1980s. So the household air pollution is defined as air pollution due to household cooking, heating, and lighting activities, which has been studied from 1980 onwards. Before that, no one actually gave importance to household air pollution. They were only giving importance to the outdoor air pollution, because that was the modern gadgets, modern industries, and modern vehicular traffic and other things. So that's what we are actually doing research on, that household air pollution. So I just would like to share some of our experiences in doing research on household air pollution. This is the last part of my presentation. So as you know that household air pollution also contains particulate matter, especially carbon monoxide is the predominant gas which is present in the household air pollution. So they both are very important. And what kind of health effects you can actually expect in a household air pollution? The problem with household air pollution is that across the world, about 40% of the population in the world use biomass for cooking, that is wood or dung, especially in Asian and African countries. We have the highest population, and the rural population, and the impoverished countries or developing countries. So most of these people. So it has been estimated that about 4 million people prematurely die due to the illnesses caused by the household air pollution, which is an estimate, but many studies have proven that the estimate could be correct. And especially among children, 50% of the premature death due to pneumonia in children less than 5 years old is caused by, or aggravated by, particulate matter in the household air. So household air is very, very important, which kills many children as well as many adults, right? So that's why it is important. And this slide actually shows household air pollution is the third highest risk factor, like immediately after high blood pressure and tobacco smoking. So it is on par with tobacco smoking, and it can produce all sorts of illnesses, whether it is cancer or cardiovascular or respiratory disease or cirrhosis. Everywhere, every system is affected, right, to some degree, right? Some of the major system which is affected is the circulatory, respiratory system, then the circulatory system. But other systems, the human systems, can also be impaired by the presence of household air pollution. So it is very important. So as you can see, lung cancer, right, that is also attributed to household air pollution, cataract, ischemic heart diseases, stroke, pneumonia, acute lower respiratory infection, all these sorts of major killers across the world. In developing countries, it may be due to household air pollution. When I say it may be due to household air pollution, the risk of these diseases increase when you are exposed to high levels of household air pollution. That's what I mean, right? So this, probably carbon monoxide, how it can enter into the bloodstream, and carboxyhemoglobin, by which it can produce lots of these things. Some of us would have experienced, if you are sitting inside a car and right, if the windows are closed and the cars are not moving, then during a rainy days, so many people died. So they put on the AC because they could not move the car out and the water enter into the car. So the carbon monoxide, which emanates from the diesel or the petrol fossil fuel combustion, which can enter inside the car chamber. So people inhale that without knowing that they're inhaling or carbon monoxide, because carbon monoxide is colorless, odorless. So you won't even know that you are actually inhaling carbon monoxide. What happens is that after 3-4 hours, if you keep inhaling, you might get some kind of a headache initially, and then you will get into kind of hypoxemia. Then you will go into coma. So you will not you will be dying, but that will not be known. So they cannot open the door to go out of the car. So many people died. In many industries also this has happened during the Second World War and those things. So carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas. Hitler used it on prisoners. So this is a very well-known poisoning gas. So short-term carbon monoxide exposure can lead to headache, to heart attacks. This has been studied. So household air pollution contains lots of carbon monoxide, so which means that the household air pollution is a dangerous thing which has to be curtailed. Otherwise, it will be a major public health problem. Okay, so what are all the sources? If you look at, this is a biomass stove, wood is used. This is coal, and this is also coal. This is kerosene. But the other three, that induction stove, the electric stove, the LPG, liquefied petroleum stove, and the solar, these three are actually clean. They don't emit that much pollution, as you all know. But these four sources, that is the biomass stove, the coal stove, and the kerosene stove, they emit a lot of smoke. That's where the household air pollution emanates, right? So this is actually to understand what is the WHO recommendation. So WHO, World Health Organization, recommend that the indoor air quality should be below 10 microgram per meter cube. Of course, now the recent WHO document says it should be 5 microgram. That is, if inside a air, the air quality is more than 10 microgram meter cube, that is the particulate matter inside the air is more than 10 microgram meter cube, then you can expect some kind of a health effects. But what we actually see in a household when they use biomass fuel is actually 285 microgram of meter cube. That means 28 times higher. What the WHO says, what we actually see inside a house when they use a biomass stove for cooking, it is 28 times higher. The pollution levels are so much higher. For children, for women, it is 33 times higher. For men, because men don't cook usually, and they usually sit outside the home. These are all rural homes, typical rural homes I'm talking about. So where you can expect 20 times higher levels of air pollution exposure. So if somebody exposed to this much levels of air pollution throughout their lifetime, then you can expect some sort of a health effects. Okay, so we had done 2 studies. One was a cohort study, which we did with the funding from the Indian Council of Medical Research in 2010 to 2015. The other one is a randomized control trial. It's actually a clinical trial we are doing in Tamil Nadu, in the state of Tamil Nadu in India, which is funded by the National Institute of Health in USA. So we collaborate with other universities across the world to do that. In both the studies, we have taken pregnancy as our end point. That is, birth outcomes after pregnancy. Why should we take pregnancy? Because pregnancy is the most vulnerable period in humans' life, because the fetus is developing. So if a woman is exposed, because when the women cook with biomass stove when they are pregnant, so they inhale a lot of smoke. It has been shown that some of the particles can actually cross the placenta, and it can enter into the developing fetus, and it can induce lots of health effects, especially growth. That is, fetal birth weight will be decreased, or the growth is stunted, or the IQ is this thing, and sometimes abortion might also happen. So these are all the things that has been studied. This is the mechanism. I already explained this mechanism in the previous slide, so I just skip this this one. Let me go to So what kind of outcomes you can study for air pollution with respect to pregnancy, which is the first trimester miscarriage, stillbirth, low birth weight, preterm birth, intrauterine growth retardation, decreased fetal gut circumference, and congenital malformation. These are the outcomes which has been studied across the countries in many settings, right? Okay, so we named this study as Tamil Nadu Air Pollution Health Effect Study. That's what the acronym TAFE, Tamil Nadu Air Pollution Health Effect Study on birth weight. That's why it is called TAFE birth weight. So the rationale is that in India, about 20% of the babies, newborn babies, are low birth weight babies. That means every 5th baby will have a low birth weight. So as you know that low birth weight is a major public health problem. So if babies are born with low birth weight, means that the baby's IQ may be impaired, baby might have a greater risk of attracting pneumonia, getting pneumonia, or they may their growth will be stunted. So all sorts of major future health effects will be seen on children who are born with the low birth weight. So low birth weight is a major public health problem. The main reason for low birth weight, of course, we all know, it's a nutrition. But even with the high levels of nutrition, if the women are cooking with biomass fuel while during their pregnancy, we can expect that some proportion of low birth weight can be due to the air pollution, right? So that's the rationale with which we started the study. So as you can see, this is the state of Tamil Nadu, where we are, Srihar is here, the Ramachandra University is here. So we have taken urban Chennai as our urban area, and the villages in and around our institute, Ramachandra Institute, is actually the rural setting, right? So in both the settings, we actually started looking at air pollution levels inside the household as well as outside the household. That is ambient as well as inside. As you know that Chennai, hardly people use biomass, but if you go to rural areas, villages, where people use biomass all the time. So we have a 2 different settings. One is an outdoor setting, another is an indoor household setting, where the air pollution levels are so high. And WHO guideline says that 10 microgram meter cube is this thing. But in India, especially in Chennai, the average air pollution levels are 50 microgram on a given day. So that's the 24-hour average. So it is 5 times higher. But when they use biomass inside the cooking, inside the household, it is expected 28 times higher. So that's what I told already. And without going into the details about how we did the study, because of the time is very short, so let me go to the results. So as you can see that about 15% of the urban babies are born with low birth weight in our study, and about 17% of the rural babies are born with low birth weight. So this is a density plot where you can see 15 to 16% of the babies are low birth weight in both urban and rural areas. The mean birth weight in our study is about 2.75 kilograms in rural. In urban, it is 2.83. So urban babies are slightly better compared to rural. As you can see, the prevalence of low birth weight is also lower in urban, right? Okay. So, and how birth weight is impaired by air pollution? This is the DAG, that is directed acyclic graph, by which you can actually see. So birth weight can be impaired directly by the particulate matter present in the air. It may be a direct effect, or it may be due to so many other factors like socioeconomic status, maternal education, how many rooms are there, whether people inside the household they smoke BDs or cigarettes, whether season of consumption. So all these factors interact. Air pollution interact with all these factors, and indirectly through maternal anemia, the other pathways, it can also produce impairment on birth weight. So either it is a direct effect, or through the other pathways, air pollution can induce low birth weight. This is the logic that we used, and as you can see this, this is a regression output. So we found out that every 10 microgram increase in air pollution level, that is particulate matter 2.5, when you have every 10 microgram increase in particulate matter 2.5, you can expect 4 grams decrease in what you call birth weight. So that means when the air pollution increases, birth weight decreases, which is only 4 gram. You might wonder what does that 4 gram means. But I had already explained that WHO cutoff is 10 microgram, right? That's the baseline. That is the expected air pollution level, accepted air pollution level, but you don't see any health effects, right? But when you use a biomass fuel, it is 28 times higher. So 28 times. So every 10 microgram means 28 into 4. I mean, there will be 4 gram decrease. So 28 into 4. That means almost 150 grams reduction in birth weight if a woman cooks with biomass fuel. So 150 gram is a major thing. So children who are born close to 2.5 kgs are actually, if they have exposed to air pollution, their birth weight will be lesser than 150 grams. So they will fall back to the low birth weight category. So that's the problem with the air pollution. So it has to be addressed. So this is the findings in our first study. It was a cohort study. This is the publication that we have made. This one, the methodology paper, is an open access one. You can actually see, I have already shared the presentation with you. So you can actually go and see the articles. The second one, the major study that we are still doing, is a randomized control trial. You might wonder how can you do a randomized trial in a household air pollution, right? On household air pollution. We have done that. This is a major study, multi-centric study. So India site is over here in Chennai. This was done in 4 different countries, Rwanda and Peru, then Guatemala. So these 4 centers, Peru, Guatemala, Rwanda, and India, are actually collaboration by many universities. Emory University in USA is the major coordinating center. And we have other universities like Johns Hopkins, Colorado State University, London School of Hygiene. So they all collaborate. This Indian site is owned by us, our RAMACHANDRA, and other study settings, Rwanda, Peru, and these things are owned by other universities across the world, right? So what was the study design? As I said, it is a randomized controlled trial. So now one group of women will be given LPG stove, right? So they all use biomass fuel for cooking, but after they get into the study, we will randomize them into 2 groups. One group will be given LPG stove. The other group will not be given anything. So they will continue to cook with biomass to see, by reducing the air pollution, whether we can expect birth weight increase, right? Or pneumonia decline. So that was the outcome that we wanted to study. So in each of the country, 800 pregnant women were recruited. Rwanda 800, India 800, Peru 800, Guatemala 800. And also we recruited 200 other adult women, older adult women, a mother or a mother-in-law in the same household, because we wanted to study the blood pressure in the older adult women also. So when the women deliver, the same 800 children in each of the country, the induct children, were followed up for air pollution as well as health effects. So the outcomes were birth weight, severe child pneumonia, child linear growth and stunting, blood pressure in other adult women. We also studied lots of secondary outcome like maternal hypertension, fetal growth, preterm birth, gross motor development, adult chronic diseases, and many other things. This is a site. So you can see that the state of Tamil Nadu in India is depicted here. We have selected two sites. One is a district called Viluppuram. The other one, name of the district is called Nagapattinam. So we selected two sites, several villages in these two sites. We did lots of formative phase. This thing we contacted the local people. We we knew about how they cook, what they cook, whether they're interested to use LPG and other things. And we found out that people want to use LPG. They are aspirational to use LPG. They want to adapt. LPG is also available, accessible, but the thing is affordability, that they could not afford LPG because every month they have to pay 1,000 rupees or 800 rupees. That much money they don't have. So given money, if they have an economic this thing, they would go for LPG. Since they are economically poor, they could not go for this thing. So this study, we actually did a feasibility study whether people will adapt. So we found out that people are aspirational, adaptable, so we can use it. So this person, Kirk Smith, unfortunately died 2 years back. So he is the kind of pioneer in household air pollution. So he is the one who actually made us to study on air pollution. He was from Berkeley University, and so we randomized them into two groups after recruitment. And then these are all some pictures about the health assessments, right? And when the baby is born, we do the anthropometry, the newborn length and weight and head circumference, all those things. And this is how we measure the air pollution. Sorry, I have to talk a lot of things to explain the whole study, but want of time, I just briefly tell how we measure air pollution. In this thing that you can see a small kind of an equipment on the women's pocket, the vest pocket. So that is an instrument which measures air pollution. You might have seen air pollution instruments which are bigger, right, which cannot be carried, portable. But this is a new age device which is portable, just like a cell phone. So that has been used. So it's like just 150 grams, so women can easily wear. So we put a vest. The vest was designed by our team, and the women, when they cook or when they work, they have to wear this vest. In the pocket, we'll put the air pollution monitor. So whenever they cook, how much air pollution they are inhaling, this machine will measure, right? So that will give us the amount of exposure that these women undergo while they are cooking or working inside the home, or even when they go out, they can wear. And this is the LPG stove that we gave to the randomized intervention group. And these are some US investigators who wanted to come and visit our site. And this is the result with respect to air pollution. So I said WHO says 10 microgram, as you can see here. So this is before we give the LPG stove. So the red one indicates control households. The blue one indicates the intervention household. That is, intervention households mean that they would get LPG. But before we give the LPG, we actually measure the air pollution. As you can see, the air pollution levels are 100 microgram, right? The particulate matter is 100 microgram over here before we give the LPG. So after we give the LPG in follow-up one, what we had found out was that the blue bar is lower. That is, as you can see, the red one remains the same across all the three, follow-up one and follow-up two. But the blue one, where the intervention households, they received LPG. That means the air pollution levels have come down to lower than what the WHO interim target. WHO says 10 microgram, but they have an interim target which is 35 microgram. So in all the households, most of the households which got intervention, the air pollution levels are below than what the WHO says. This is across 4 countries. This is for PM, this is for carbon monoxide, this is for black carbon. In all the 3 pollutants, we could see a reduction in air pollution after we give the intervention. Whether this reduction in air pollution actually translate in high birth weight, that's what we are expecting to see. That's the hypothesis. So this study just got over. We are still analyzing the data. We are waiting for that. This graph, another way of depicting the same thing. The red one indicates the control households air pollution levels. The blue one indicates the intervention households after getting LPG. So as you can see, great reduction with respect to the after the randomization in all the households, air pollution has reduced a lot in all the 4 countries. This is to show in all the 4 different countries, Guatemala, India, Peru, and Rwanda. As you can see, air pollution has been reduced, but we are waiting whether the reduction in air pollution actually translated health benefits. So waiting for the results. Yeah, so with this, I end my presentation. Thank you for inviting me for this thing. Thank you for our international office, as well as the Vice Chancellor of STIKes Dharma Institute in University in Indonesia. Yeah, so if you have questions, you can ask. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. G. Thankful, for your valuable material and interesting presentation. And for a little intermezzo, thanks God, in Indonesia, majority people using LPG gas stove in here, Doctor. Okay. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, now we are entering the next session, the question and answer session. We have about 30 minutes for discuss. So please raise hand by click the symbol on your monitor or gadget, or you can write question in the chat box. I'd like have 3 questions maybe for the participant. Please, you may also ask the question in bahasa also. Dipersilahkan kepada seluruh partisipan untuk bertanya. Diperkenankan jika ingin bertanya menggunakan bahasa Indonesia juga.
Muhammad Fajrin, Miss Irma, to answer.
Yeah, please Muhammad Fajrin, the question, and to first or second speaker. And please introduce yourself first. Muhammad Fajrin, please.
I would like to give a question for Dr. Falamarti. Can I?
Muhammad Fajrin on cam.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So is
please on your camera. Fajrin, Muhammad Fajrin.
Fajrin studying public health, Bu Irma.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Okay, Muhammad Fajrin, maybe your signal. You can write the question in the chat box also. Maybe for another participant, please raise your hand.
Here.
Okay, Muhammad Fajrin, place your question.
For Dr. Falamarti, yeah.
Yeah, hi.
I don't know I can say English, doctor, but I love your English so much. Like the accent is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a multiple solution you shared to us in the presentation. And my question is,
yes,
which solution is more possible for us to use that kind of solution in the future, and why you choose that and how effective that solution is? And my name is Muhammad Fajrin Patiasina. Everyone call me Aji, from public health student, 2nd semester. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Fajrin, for that question. The question is like, which solution you would choose? It depends on what is your area of interest. So as an optometrist, I would try to look into the risk management system. I would also look into the financial management system, because so in COVID, what has happened is like all the students have gone in for online learning platform, isn't it? So there were some schools in India which was very mad that they started to conduct 8 to 4 classes on online, which is really, one cannot sit before the system for 8 long hours. Okay, so in such cases, there are chances that the child might get in eye strain because he is constantly focusing on the near target. He might have some accommodation problems. Okay, so I would really think of, and he is also exposed to the blue light for a longer period of time, which will give in turn lead to sleep disorders. Okay, so my area of focus as a clinician would be in terms of risk management. And if because of this they are seeing the gadgets for long period of time, these children will become more myopic, so they need to wear glasses. So if the people are underprivileged, then we need to procure some free glasses for them. So finance management, budgeting also comes into this sector. So that is how, depending on the need, as you all know, necessity is the mother of all inventions, isn't it? So depending on the need, you can choose your solutions. And I would also think of doing a data management, because I would like to convert all my patients' records into EMR in a short span of time, so that even at a remote place, I can access my patients' records and give them correct solutions, even if I am not physically present in the hospital. So that's how the solution, it is not one solution doesn't fit all people. Depending on your passion, depending on the need, we need to find out and figure out our own solutions. I think, Fajrin, I have answered your question.
Thank you for the answer, but how effective it is, that's it.
It's really effective. Risk management is really effective. We came up with the conclusion that the online classes should not go beyond 4 hours. And 4 hours also, like 2 hours in the morning, you give a break for lunch for 1 hour and another 2 hours in the afternoon. So this reduces a lot of eye strain. This reduces a lot of other problems. Okay, so if, and second thing, we came out with the solution like how the posture is, what type of gadgets the students were using. Mostly they were sticking on to mobile phones for their classes. They were dependent on mobile phones for the classes. So what happens generally with the mobile phone, a smaller phone you cannot hold for long, isn't it? So you tend to bend down too much. You tend to sleep on the bed and watch the classes, isn't it? So it leads to a lot of neck pains and things like that. So we were able to give good recommendations to the schools and students as to how the classes have to be conducted. There were in between, after a short while, government policies that if it is a primary school, not more than 2 hours of classes has to be taken. If it is a high school, then you can allot 4 classes. Because these research only led to such government policies, isn't it? Before that, we did not have any policy like that only, and we had only half an hour class for kindergarten students. It's not like you can run a 8-hour class for a kindergarten students online. But there were schools who were cranky to do this in the beginning, but then because of government policies, most of the people's eye care or high health was really saved, isn't it? So really effective solutions came out during the COVID period, as far as eye care is research, found out, isn't it?
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Okay, Muhammad Fajrin, it's clear. And for information, there is the reward for the best question from committee. Okay, Mrs. Maya, reward from the best question. Okay, thank you. Dr. Valamarti, is so interesting that in the nursing, it is all relevant. In nursing, we have also telenursing. And I developed it it's so effective from us in facing during pandemic COVID-19. So we can minimize the physical contact between patient and healthcare. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, maybe next question from another participant. Please raise your hand and introduce your name, yourself. Another question, maybe? Okay. Yeah. Another question from Siti Robaya. Please, from Siti Robaya.
Okay, thank you, Mom, for the opportunity. My name is Siti Robaya. I'm a STIKes Husada Bandung student in majoring nursing. Okay, my question explained in the presentation by Mrs. Valamarti, the big shift in healthcare during the pandemic-19 refers to the many good impact and sector during the technology-enabled system. Are there any bad effect and what are solutions? Thank you.
You want to know some bad effects of technology?
Just so you have explained about the good impact and there is any impact bad. If there is, so what the solution?
Okay, Siti Robaya, maybe you ask the positive and negative impact for using technology, isn't it?
Yes, good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, please, Dr. Valamarti.
Okay. Positive impact is learning. Even during COVID, we were able to sensitize our students. Our education did not get hindered. In fact, we transformed into making videos, recording our classes, which can be used for future reference and things. So that's the best part of technology. But the next part of technology is that because of use of gadgets, your exposure to blue light is increasing. Okay, so blue light exposure can have some health effects on the person or children. Okay, so we need to think of protecting them with some blue cut lenses. We need to recommend blue cut lenses if the children are exposed to blue light for long period of time. And if they use the technology, if they use the gadgets in a wrong posture, it can lead to neck pain. And if they are going to use the gadgets for long hours, it can lead to sleep disorders. Okay, so there is always two sides of a coin. So how we are going to use it is more important than avoiding it for the sake of disadvantages. So if we could effectively use it for 4 hours, then it is a good. But if you're going to use the gadgets for 14 hours, it is going to be detrimental, isn't it? So it has both advantages and disadvantages. Pros and cons are everywhere there.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Valamarti. Okay, Siti Robaya, is it clear?
Yeah, clear. I get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Siti Robaya from Bachelor Nursing Program. And now we have other participant. Next question from Arista Sani Octavianti. Please, for Arista.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I also say thank you to Dr. Valamarti for the presentation of the material that was so clear. So, but I have some question about it. Do people in remote areas still get the information about health through telemedicine? And if the public cannot access information because they do not have a mobile phone or the, what can I say, limited internet connection, what are the all stakeholders and also the government of India doing so that all information about the healthcare is conveyed to people in the remote areas, Doctor? Thank you.
Thank you, Arista. That was a very good question, and the question of the heart, in fact. Okay, so there are limitations in understanding in rural areas. Okay, but then the rural areas we were trying to address with the help of local public health centers. So there were home visits by the local public health center personals, and they took on a daily basis, they visited each and every home and found out if there was any fever or chills and things like that. They were trying to monitor in that way. And there were regular camps conducted in the rural areas to screen for people. And in case it was a very remote village that we could not give internet access or things like that, then they were really shifted to the nearest town area. But the amount of impact in the rural area was really less compared to the urban people. The most number of people hit during the COVID was residing in the urban area rather than the rural area. The remote areas, even people were not wearing masks even during the first wave or second wave or third wave. It was really like people were not even wearing mask when you go deep remote areas. Okay, so they did not fear the pandemic in the rural areas. Does that answer your question?
Sure, Dr. Palamarti. Thank you for your answer. That
Thank you.
was.
Okay, thank you, Arista, for the question. And it's still big challenges to apply the telemedicine in a remote area, also in Indonesia, Dr. Palamarti. And we have a second speaker from Dr. Chainfel. Maybe some question for Dr. Chainfel, please, or participant. Any other question, maybe for Dr. Chainfel too, about the air pollution? It's so interesting material too. That we know in Indonesia we use LPG gas stove, and this so sudah banyak ya di kita yang menggunakan gas LPG. Tadi penelitian dari Dr. Chainfel mengenai keuntungan untuk mereduce, untuk mengurangi resiko dari adanya akibat air pollution tadi, akibat polusi udara terhadap gangguan pada paru-paru. Ya, dipersilakan kepada seluruh audiens, hadirin, Bapak Ibu. Any other question? Maybe I will read the question in the chat box. Okay. I have 3 or 4 questions in the chat box. And the first question from Dr. Siti Sugihartiningsih. He is the Vice Director of Dharma Husada Bandung, Dr. Palamarti. And question is to Dr. Palamarti, do you have any experience conducting research about healthcare education during pandemic COVID-19 or another lectures maybe? Please, Doctor.
We did not conduct research as such in education, but then we adopted very many techniques during the COVID period to enforce the education system, to not disrupt the education for our students. We adopted a lot of learning management system. Okay, we have this Moodle learning management system. So we are in that system, you have you can create your course shells. Suppose I am I'm taking contact lens or low vision, I can create my course shell, and all my student participants, I can enroll in that. And each of the class that I take them online, I record it. So even if they are not able to sit through the entire class, they can go back and see the lectures or recorded lectures at any point of time. By this, we can ensure that we are with them throughout the coursework. Okay, and all the assessments were also put in the learning management system. And the learning management system can also have like you can have discussion forums on the learning management system. We can conduct polls. We conducted quizzes through Kahoot and Socrative softwares. Okay, so we try to adopt as many technology as possible during the COVID to impart knowledge, and we try to get good videos, and we try to make demonstrations of the clinical procedures, and shared and discussed with the students online. So we were able to sensitize our students very well. In fact, more than the physical classes, our online classes had 100% attendance, because it was like a more interactive session. It is not like one way lecture. We try to incorporate a different modalities to explain the same concept. We try to use as much videos as possible, which we do not do in a traditional classroom setup. So students were really free, and 100% attendance was there on the online mode rather than on the physical classroom. Though the conceptualization was little less, based on the skill imparting was little less, we were able to at least get the knowledge to them as much as possible. Does that answer?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Valamarti. Maybe Dr. Siti Sugi? Is it
Yes,
clearly?
thank you. Maybe in the future we can do conduct joint research between Dharma Husada and Sirer. Yeah,
Most
I hope so.
welcome.
Dr. Palamarti, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And in Dharma Husada, we try also to develop learning management system during pandemic.
Very
Okay,
good.
yeah. I had second question. Okay, this is from our vice director also, Dr. Suparni, or we call Bu Nining. Mrs. Nining, to Dr. Valamarti, can you share experience regarding current research during the COVID pandemic and the use of gadgets in children, especially related to health visual for children? Please, Dr. Valamarti.
Yeah. Everywhere it is only this research that is going on. Only two major works that are really going on in during the pandemic. One was with children gadget use and the increase in myopia progression. And the third thing was like whether use of contact lenses during COVID a good idea or not, because people were scared that contact lenses can transmit the virus, in fact. So these three domains were the ones that we were constantly repeatedly doing research during the COVID-19. And most of our research went on well with the other researchers as well. In terms of myopia progression, we really saw a 10% hike in the progression. So pre-COVID, we had data about our students, our own optometry students. We had how many people were wearing glasses. When they bounced back after the COVID, we could see that there are 10% of people have been wearing more. Like if it is a class of 50 people, like 15 people were wearing pre-COVID. When they bounced back after COVID, nearly 25%, 25 children in the class was wearing glasses. So overall, in the entire optometry population, we saw a 10% increase in myopia progression within the 2 years of COVID population. So that was one of the thing that we felt was good. And second thing, we also worked with the school children. We in fact conducted a survey like thing where we shared a questionnaire to the school children to figure out if what type of gadgets they are using, are they comfortable with online classes, and what is the posture that they use, what is the room illumination that they use during the online classes. Okay, so all this we were looking at. So mostly we found that 80% of the population was using only mobile phones. It's a very, very small screen with which they had to sit for the entire classes. So many even complained of shoulder pains, many complained of body pains. All this were some of the complaints that we had. There were eye strain and headache complained by nearly 30-35% of the students. These were some of the take-home messages. This is still an unpublished data. We will start publishing it in shorter span of time.
Thank you, Dr. Valamarti.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Valamarti. Thank you very much, Dr. Suparni. And we have the last question in the chat box from Mr. Jahidul Fikri. He is the head of Diploma Nursing Program in Dharma Husada. To Dr. Chitangfel. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Tangfel was interested in the presentation that you gave regarding evolution. There are several questions related to this topic. As we all know, is COVID-19 including evolution, and whether masks can overcome the pollution? As we know that cause the pollution is a very small virus. Okay, and the question is, how has been the handling of air pollution caused by large factories? Does your country deal with the pollution? Please, for Dr. Tangfel. Okay, Dr. Tangfel. Are you in?
Oh, audio is not.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
This is for you.
Yeah, so I did not unmute my audio. I unmuted my video. Yeah, so basically mask wearing, of course, it has actually reduced air pollution impact, in the sense like, especially in the urban areas, most of the time people wore mask even when they go out in outdoor settings. So that actually reduced the respiratory disease burden. But the thing is that because COVID also affects the respiratory system, right? The most of the focus is only on the COVID. So we did not have that much data, how much reduction in air pollution has actually seen. But of course, the vehicle, during the first, first lockdown that India had, which was severe in the sense like from March 24, 2020 to almost like 3 to 4 months, there was no transportation, both air, rail, as well as bus transport. So we had a decline in air pollution that has been recorded by the monitoring stations. But whether we had decline in respiratory health effects, which could not be recorded, it is because that hospitals were closed. So only closed for all other illnesses except for COVID. So that was the major handicap, that COVID has actually whitewashed everything. That means that you could not actually get data on other diseases except COVID when the COVID was in peak. So that was the major handicap. But studies have shown that wearing a mask actually protects you against air pollution. So it stops the air pollution going inside your lungs and the respiratory tract. So that is a very well known fact that has been this thing, because the size micron is very less. So especially the double-layered surgical mask or N95 can actually inhibit the entry of air pollution, the particulate matter. But the gases can still go, the carbon monoxide can still go, but the pollutant particles cannot go inside. So that was that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kanafel. Is it clear, Mr. Jahidul Fikri?
Okay, thank you, Sinap.
Okay, thank you for all speakers and all participants for the question and the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of this webinar. Before I close the webinar, I would like to take the conclusion from what the speaker has presented.
Bu Irma, my question has not been read.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Yes.
Gugum. Mr. Gugum, I'm sorry. Is it in the chat box?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe you can speak. You can speak up. And
Okay.
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 Yeah.
I'm to ask for the two speaker. Have you done the reason in the file of the public health reason to COVID-19? If so, what were the result and solution? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gugum, this is question for Dr. Chayapal and Dr. Valamarti too about the field of public health related research in the public field of public health related to COVID-19. Please, Dr. Chayapal and Dr. Valamarti, the last question from Mr. Gugum.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Gugum. And we did not do any, I did not do any primary research, though I'm an epidemiologist, but I am into air pollution epidemiology. I'm not an infectious disease epidemiology, but I did publish a booklet, which has been translated into many Indian languages, Hindi, Urdu, and many other regional languages inside India, which is on the general precautions to be taken during the pandemic. So that I can share, but I did not do any primary research, that is collecting data on COVID related mortalities or morbidities, because this somehow COVID, I don't know about Indonesia, but in India, anything you want to do COVID related research, you have to get no permission from the government. So that government was actually not inhibitive, but it take longer time to get the permission and other things. So, and the other reason is that we were engaged in our major this household air pollution LPG study. So we were only focusing on that study, and our study has hampered during the March 2020 lockdown. So we had to resume that. So my entire energy was spent on that. So I did not do much research on COVID. I don't know about Dr. Valarmadi, but in our department, we could not do. That's what. Hope I answered your question.
Okay.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you.
Gugum. In fact, we did not do much things related to COVID, but we were concerned about the eye care because the impact that the COVID had created. Okay, as I had told earlier, we were focusing on what type of online classes people were going, how many hours of classes they are attending, how is their eye health, do they have any eye strain, do they feel any blurred vision during attending, do they have any double vision when they are attending, does the screen goes off? Because if they are constantly focusing on the screen for long hours, immediately after some time their accommodation will break, and they might see a blurred screen for a momentary period of time. So we were working on the basic visual hygiene aspect of it and not directly into the COVID research. So the impact of COVID only we were looking at on the eye.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Hopefully we can work together on research in field of public health, ma'am.
Yeah, Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Google, for your condition.
Then no problem, no problem. It's okay.
Okay, thank you for all speakers, ladies and gentlemen. We finally come to the end of the webinar. Before I close the webinar, I would like to take the conclusion from what the speaker has presented. Okay, from our first speaker, Dr. Valamarti, there is big shift in healthcare such as telehealth, electronic medical records, insurance policies, government policies, choose artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics might be hopefully technology for us to encounter healthcare problems that affected by COVID-19. Hopefully, research related to risk management, information management, financial management, healthcare policy, and epidemiology studies is conducted to address problems in healthcare, especially education sector. And from the second speaker, Dr. GENERALE, since air pollution is a really important issue on human being, we need to conduct more studies about it. Household air pollution and health, a multi-country LPG intervention trial includes India and Tamil, already conducted, and the results show significant reduction in maternal exposure of CO or carbon. Further, it make better quality of life indirectly, especially among maternal and child. Maybe it's that the conclusion from first and second speaker. Thank you very much, Dr. Valamarti and Dr. Tangavel, for your valuable material and interesting presentation. Okay, I'd like to thank the speaker and finally give applause for the speaker and for you all. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please, Mrs. Dian, as the master of ceremony of today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibu Irma, for bringing us to the very interesting discussion. Please give a warm virtual applause for Ibu Irma and all of the speakers.
Thank you for the opportunity too.
Thank you, Dr. Valamarti and Dr. Tangavel. And this time we would like to convey our thanks today to Dr. Valamarti and Dr. Tangavel. Please allow us to be able to award a certificate. And for the first one will be given by Ibu Dr. Anda Suryani, Diploma Midwife MM, as a Director of Dharma Husada Bandung Institution of Health Science. Kami mohon berkenan kepada Ibu Dr. Anda Suryani Suparda, Diploma Midwife MM, untuk dapat memberikan sertifikat sebagai bentuk atau ucapan terima kasih kepada para
Ibu Siti Sugri dulu, Bu Dian.
Oh, baik Ibu, baik. Baik, untuk itu kami mohon berkenan kepada Ibu Dr. Siti Sugiharteningsih, SSI MKes, untuk dapat memberikan sertifikat secara simbolis kepada Dr. Valamarti.
Okay, thank you very much to Dr. Valamarti for your good presentation, and hope it's not the first. Yeah, maybe this is the first, but we can continue with another topic. Thank you very much, Dr. Valamarti.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Ibu Siti Sugi and Dr. Valamarti, and the next, please allow us to be able to award a certificate for Dr. G. Tangavel, which will be given by Ibu Dr. Anda Suryani, Diploma Midwife MM. Kami mohon berkenan kepada Bunda Ibu Dr. Anda Suryani, Diploma Midwife MM, untuk dapat menyerahkan sertifikat sebagai ucapan terima kasih kepada Dr. Tangavel. Mohon izin Ibu Suparni, sepertinya Bunda tidak tergabung di Zoom.
Sebentar Ibu Dian, ini dengan Ibu Ketua.
Oh iya, baik.
Mana sertifikatnya? Ini Bu. Ya,
bahasa Indonesia.
Ya, nggak apa-apa. Bahasa
Ya.
Indonesia nanti sama.
Saya tadi bahasa
Dokter Tanggavel.
dokter
Tanggavel.
dan ya langsung.
Langsung aja Bu.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dengan ini saya serahkan sertifikat untuk pembicara yaitu Dokter Tanggavel. Terima kasih. Thank you very much for your attention to Dharma Husada Bandung.
Thank you, Dr. Suprani. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Suprani.
Baik, terima kasih Bunda atas penyerahan
sama-sama.
sertifikat.
Alhamdulillah.
Baik, thank you doctors for all of the very informative and insightful lecture. It's going. Okay. For the next program, we would like to re-invite all of the speakers with Mr. Ravi to take a picture together and it is going to be taken 2 times. And the first picture will be taken with Ibu Dr. Suryani and Ibu Dr. Suparni and Ibu Dr. Siti Sugi as well. So I would like to invite and please to the committee to make a spotlight to all of the people that I invite. I'm going to give a cue on the 3, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you, Ibu. And the second taken picture is with the eminent head of the study programs in Dharma Husada Bandung Institute of Health Science. So please allow us to invite Bapak Ece Pruhiat, Ibu Irma, Ibu Ira Kartika, Bapak Jahidul Fikri, Bapak Arif Wicaksono, who is represented by Bapak Hotman, to present and taking the picture together. So I am going to give a cue. Oke, Bapak Ejep, apakah bisa bergabung Pak untuk berfoto bersama? Bapak
Ya,
Ejep
Bu Dian.
dan Bapak Hotman. Baik.
Ya, Bu Dian.
Ejep, oke, sudah ada. Bapak Hotman.
Sudah, Bu. Sudah, Bu.
Ibu Ira.
Ya, Bu Dian.
Ibu Ida, apakah hadir, Bu? Sepertinya tidak bergabung ya dari Prodi S2. Baik.
Ibu Maya, Bu Dian. Ibu
Bu Maya, mohon maaf. Sebagai ketua pada hari ini juga. I am really sorry. I beg your pardon, Ibu Maya. So, okay. You are here. So I am going to give a cue on the 3rd count. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you for all of the head of study program in Dharma Husada Bandung. And we will going to the next program.
Udah ya? Halo Pak Raffi, selamat siang Pak Raffi. How are you Pak Raffi?
Ya, baik Ibu. Ibu gimana Bu? Sehat Bu?
Sehat Pak. Kapan ke Indonesia lagi?
Ibu mudah-mudahan 2 minggu lagi Bu. Mudah-mudahan udah balik ke Indonesia dan pasti Bu mau datang ke Bandung dan kalau ada kesempatan pasti mau ketemu sama Ibu juga. Dan senang Bu bisa ketemu sama Ibu lagi udah lama. Bisa ketemu sama Ibu dan juga Ibu Ibu Sugi, Ibu Nining semuanya. Jadi terima kasih ya Bu untuk dukungannya Bu. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak. Insya Allah kalau Pak Rafi udah ke sini, Ibu ke India.
Oh pasti Bu, tenang hati Bu. Senang sekali Bu kalau ada kesempatan.
Terima kasih untuk semuanya. Mudah-mudahan
Terima kasih Bunda.
kita ke depan melaksanakan lagi kegiatan seperti ini.
Ya, pasti Bu. Terima kasih.
Last but not baik, terima kasih Bunda. Last but not least, it's time for all of us to get together forever by taking picture with all of the audience. So please turn on the camera so we can see the beautiful, handsome and handsome faces out there. And don't forget to smile so the photo will be awesome. Oke, kami mohon kepada seluruh hadirin untuk dapat mengaktifkan kameranya. Kita akan berfoto bersama. Akan ada 14 kali pengambilan foto. So we are going to take a picture together and there will be 14 times to take a photo because we don't know where panel we are. Okay, I'm going to give a cue on the third count. Okay, please be ready for taking a picture. Okay, one for the first panel. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, for the second panel.
Ibu Dian, just 1 second, Ibu Dian, sorry.
Okay, sorry, Doctor.
I would just like to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Valarmati and also Dr. G. Tangwel and also the management and the Vice Chancellor of Sri Ramachandra for their great support. Thank you, Dr. Valarmati, and also thank you, Dr. Tangwel, for the wonderful presentation and also for the support. Please convey our best wishes on behalf of STIKes Dharma Husada to the Vice Chancellor. It's a great pleasure to be working with Sri Ramachandra, and we hope this collaboration can continue as we move forward. Thank you once again for all the support. Terima kasih.
Pleasure is mine, Ravi. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bapak Rafi and doctors. Baik. Mohon izin untuk melanjutkan pengambilan foto pada panel yang kedua, and it's time to take a picture for the second panel. I'm going to give a cue on the third count, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, the third panel, 1, 2, and 3. The fourth panel, 1, 2, and 3. And the fifth panel, 1, 2, and 3. The sixth panel, 1, 2, 3. Okay, panel 7, 1, 2, 3. Panel 8, 1, 2, 3. Panel 9, 1, 2, 3. Panel 10, 1, 2, 3. And the 11th panel, 1, 2, 3. Panel 12, 1, 2, 3. And the last panel, 1, 2, and 3. It's quite tight for me to take a picture. That's long. Terima kasih untuk sesi foto sudah kita jalan bersama. So that is a workshop for our morning. Thank you all for making time in your busy schedules to join us here this morning. And finally, we come to the end of this event. So to close this event, let's reciting Hamdalah together.
Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Terima kasih untuk semuanya.
Terima kasih Bunda, sehat selalu Bunda.
Amin, amin.
Well, I will stop my session. If you find some mistakes, I just beg your pardon, and thank you very much for your nice attentions. It's been my pleasure to host this event, and I wish you all the pleasant day. Good day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Rafi.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Terima kasih semuanya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ravi, and thank you, the organizers.
Thank you, Dr. Tangwel. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Valamati. Thank you.
Thank you all for this event.
Dr. Tanggavel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Selamat Bu Maya.
Panitia seminar internasional berikutnya, Ibu Maya.
Mantap.